Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 20 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn artificial intelligence or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice refreshing glass of iced coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to teach you today is I'm going to teach you to take that data structure that is coming back from Mediapipe, where it's finding all the hands and all the hand landmarks, and how to parse that data so you can see if a given hand is a right hand or a left hand. And there's a lot of different reasons that you might want to do this, because you might want to be looking at gestures between your hands, or if you think about the homework assignment you did last week where you created a one-player Pong game, a gesture-based one-player Pong game by moving your hand back and forth. Well, if you wanted to do a two-handed Pong game, you got to kind of keep track of what is a right hand and what is a left hand, or the play would be randomly switching back and forth between your right hand is controlling the right paddle. Well, maybe your right hand would start controlling the left paddle. So you've got to be able to keep track of whether a hand is a right hand or a left hand. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to that last program that we did. I think it was week before last, so maybe it was in lesson number 18, where we kind of took the data structure of coming back from the Mediapipe on the hands landmarks, and we kind of parsed it into a nice array of all the data points in a class. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to go in and we're going to modify that class where it returns not only all the landmarks for the hands, but it's also going to return whether a given hand is a right hand or a left hand. Sound pretty cool? I think it is. So enough of this introductory banter. It is time for us to come over and to begin to code. We will begin to code. So what I will need you to do is fire up your most excellent Visual Studio Code. And we're going to come over here, and we are working in our main Python folder, and we are going to create a new file, which is going to be OpenCV is it 32? Or is it 33? I'll try 33.py, and the .py is kind of important, and boom, a fresh new Python program just waiting to be written. And hey, I did get it right. Our last program was 32, so this is 33. I always don't know on naming the things to give it a more descriptive name, so when you come back later, you know what it is, kind of with a little description in the file name. But then you just end up with just a random assortment in random order. So I like to kind of do it this way, and that way it lists them chronologically. But you might want to label yours different. Okay, I don't want to start completely from scratch, so let's go back to what we did in lesson number 18, where we sort of defined that class structure that would allow us to pull off the landmarks, the XY coordinates of all the different little detailed locations of our hands. Let's go back to that. And in case you have not been following along, never fear, you can go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. You'll come over here to this happy little search bar, and you need to search on something like parsing hand position in Mediapipe, and then you will come up to this most excellent lesson. Come down here, click on the little double icon, the little double page icon, right mouse click and copy, and then come over here, right mouse click and right mouse click and paste. And now we've got this program. And what this program does, the key thing about this program is it creates a class called MP hands. And then this class does all the parsing for you. Then all you've got to do is to get the data on the hands, all you've got to do is then you've got to call that, well, you've got to create your object or your instance of the class. You've got to call the instance of the class, and then to get the data, all you've got to do is take that object and do .marks and pass it the frame, and then it will return an array of arrays of all the data points on all your digits. Okay. If this doesn't make sense, go back and watch that lesson again. But now what we want to do is, what we would like to do at this point is, we would like to alter this a little bit. And I'm not going to make like a separate method for I'm not going to make a separate method for finding the left-handedness or the right-handedness, because really the left-handedness and the right-handedness really is tied directly to a given set of landmarks. So I kind of want to return it as part of this marks that we've already done here. Okay, so let's just jump in and let's see where we want to crack this nut open, crack this little nut wide open. And I think what we want to do is we want to come here, because basically similar to finding the landmarks, first of all, if there's no result, if there's no hand, you don't want to do anything. But if there is a hand, okay, if there is a hand there, then we want to start analyzing the hand. And here what I want to just see is that, do we have data once we call results? Okay, once we call results, or I guess we're calling the hands.process. Once we process the frame, okay, and we put the results in results, if there are any results in there, do we have data? Do we have access to data about the right-handedness or the left-handedness of the hand we find? Well, let's just do that by saying, let's see if I can print a data structure here. I'm going to print, and what am I going to print? I'm going to print results, which is that big chunk of data we just got back. And I'm going to print multi-handedness. Okay. And again, the problem is these data structures, this result that you get back from Mediapipe, I can't find any clear, easy to understand documentation on it. So we got to just kind of play with it and break it apart and then do the hard work here in this class. And then when we actually want to use Mediapipe, we just call the class. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Man, I'm enjoying this coffee. Okay, it gets my motor running here. All right, so what I want to do is, is there something called multi-handedness that will give us some sort of data? So let's come over here. I'm going to get this out of the way here. And now I'm going to run this thing. Okay. Let's see. All right, the good news is it didn't crash. Well, that's not really good news, because it hasn't seen a hand yet, so it hasn't actually gone up into that class. And now what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to throw it a hand, and hey, it does seem to have found something. It does seem to have found something associated with the hand. And it seems to have thought, now understand this last one where it says right, that is as I'm pulling my hand out of the frame, it gets like at least one frame of this goofy looking hand as it's moving and halfway out of the picture. So you got to kind of ignore that one. But then you see it says left, 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 left. It thinks it's seeing a left hand. Okay, now, what's the good news? It seems to be determining left-handedness and right-handedness. We seem to have a data structure here. We seem to have a data structure that we could begin to crack into. We have a data structure that we could begin to crack into. But what is the problem? The problem is this, my friend, is my right hand. Oop. And it's listing it as left. This is my right hand, and it is listing it as left. This, my friend, is my left hand, and it is listing it as right. Okay. Now again, that is the confusion. This is the confusion as it leaves the thing. But if we looked at it more carefully, what you would find is you would find that it is getting exactly opposite. That you see, this is my left hand and it is calling it my right hand. This is my right hand and it is calling it my left hand. Now, why would that be happening? Well, sometimes it's hard to really understand how how programmers think, but it's something like red is acting like blue, so we'll just we'll just call red blue. You see, it's something kind of like that. But if you think about it, if I put my hand up, my right hand up, and then I show the frame on the screen, it's on the left side of the screen, okay? And so, yeah, it's my right hand, but it's on the left side of the screen. So it's giving what it looks like when you look at it on the screen kind of thing. And so it sort of drives me crazy. So if you really want your right hand, it's what media calls your left hand. If you really want your left hand, it's what Mediapipe calls your right hand. Now, if some of you guys are smarter out there and can give me a better explanation of why they did it this way, leave a comment down below. I'll pin it and I'll give you a little gold star. But for now, let's just suffice it to say it appears to be backwards. Okay, it appears to be backwards. So what are we going to do? We're going to come in here. Now that we see that we can get the app, I better run it one more time. You can see that the data structure here is an array. And inside of that array is the tag classification. And then inside of classification is the index, the score, and the label. I think the index, like 1 means right and 0 means left. And so I think that's what the classification is. Yeah, it seems like left always has an index of 0 and right always has an index of 1. So instead of looking at the label, we could just look at the index, and that might actually be easier. But we're going to go ahead and just do right and left and know that they're backwards. And so how would we begin to break into this? Well, first of all, it seems like it's an array. So what if I throw it 2 hands? Okay, what if I throw it 2 hands? Because if we're going to parse this thing, we've really kind of got to know what it looks like for multi-hands. Now, I try to drop them quickly to get them out of the picture as soon as I possibly can. But now, yeah, it looks like I've now got 2 hands in here. So I have an open array, and then I've got a classification, open and close, a comma, classification, and an open and close. And so it seems like here it is finding 2 hands. And so this data structure results.multi-handedness is an array, and that array includes an array for one hand and an array for the other hand. Okay, does that make sense? And so what we probably should do is, so we could sort of see that it's an array of hands data. And so what that means is we probably are going to need to step through it. We are probably going to need to go ahead and step through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm going to just step through it. So I'm going to say for hand in results okay. I did a very bad thing there. I did a very bad thing. I marked out the wrong thing. We still got to do that. I did a very, very bad thing. I did poorly. Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to comment out the print. Okay, we're going to comment out the print. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to step through those hand results. So I'm just going to say for hand in what? Results dot multi-handedness. Okay, and so what that should do is the first time through the loop, it should give me starting with classification, and then the open curly and the closed curly and everything in it. And then the next time through the loop, it should give me this next data set. And if we had it set up for more than that many hands, it would just step through it. Okay, so that is what we have there. Okay, now what would be the first thing that I might just want to print? Well, let's just print and look at hand. Okay, and so what I'm thinking now is what I will get is, instead of the left hand and the right hand inside of this external array, what I should just get is classification down to right and then classification down to left. I should be sort of pulling this out one at a time. So let's look at that. So I shouldn't have two hands now. I should have it give it to me one hand at a time. All right, so let's come down and let's see if we do that. And what I'm showing you is I'm going through this slowly so you can say that we can look at one of these bizarre data structures and we can kind of start peeling it back like an onion, okay? And so let's take a look at this. Okay, now what I will do is I will throw it one hand. I'm not going to show the picture because you don't need to see the picture as much as you need to see the data. So I'll throw it one hand, and okay, do you see that? I don't have the outside square brackets anymore. I've peeled those off, and it's just giving me left, 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 right? I mean, correct, left, 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 left. And then you get the one confusing data point as you're pulling your hand out. Okay, so now let me flash it two hands, and now it should give me left, right, left, right, left, right, but they shouldn't be packaged together inside of an array. Okay, okay, so here is the left, and then here is the right. But you see that do you see, let me give you a little more view of this here. Do you see that the left and the right are now not packaged together in the outside brackets? I've taken the first one and printed it, and I've taken the second one and printed it. And so that is pretty cool. We are starting to peel this onion, or I guess I could say we're skinning this cat. That's probably not politically correct, but we'll say it, skinning the cat. All right, so now what do we want to do? All right, well, what we see is the data structure here is classification. So what I want is I want to print, instead of printing hand, I'm just going to mark that out because we might want to come down to it. Might want to refer back to it. Now I'm just going to print what? Hand dot, what do I want to look at? Classification. Now, guys, you can't say hand dot label because what's up here at this level in the hierarchy and this level in the tree is classification. So I can look at hand dot classification. Okay, hand dot classification. And let's see what that gives me. Does that make sense? All right, let's see if this thing is actually running. Okay, it's running. Now what I'll do is I'll flash you a hand. Okay, and that did not, what did I do? I had a little glitch there. Sorry. Let me kill this. Okay. And I said print hand.classification, and that didn't seem to really do anything other than just what I had before, did it? Okay, yes it did. Whew, for some reason. You know what I think I did? I think I ran it while it was already running, and so I was getting the old result. Okay, but now what you see is when I print hand.classification, it strips off the classification. Let's see if I can get all the way back to that earlier data. I don't know if I can. No, I can't. Okay. It strips off that outside classification, and it gives me the array that is inside past the classification. So now I'm getting one at a time, the index of the hand, one at a time, the index of the hand, how confident you are that it's a hand, and whether the hand is left or right, but it's backwards. Okay, so now that is really, really, really good. But now what I want to do is, to get at the data, I've got to strip off these outside, okay, these outside before were the curlies, but now they become square. Now what I got to do is strip those off. Well, how do I strip those off? Well, it's thinking that I'm going to have an array of arrays, and I want to just strip off that outside array, and I can do that by taking the 0th element. And there's only going to be one element. It's only going to be the 0th element, but if I explicitly call that out, then it will strip off those outside like let me show you something real quick here. Okay, so let's say A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Can you see that? A is equal to open, 1, 2, 3, 4, close, an array of an array with one array in it. Okay, now print A. Okay, there it is. Now, what if I want to get rid of those outside parentheses? I could say A of 0. And then it strips off those outside parentheses, and now I just have the inside stuff. Well, that's what I want to do here. I want to strip these off. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want hand.classification of what? Of 0. And that should just get rid of those outside brackets. Okay. And you guys that know what you're doing probably could have done this in one line of code. But what I want you to do is I want you to not copy someone who's way smarter and way more talented than we are. What I want you to do is have a tool set where you can understand how to do it on your own and how to, skin these complicated cats. All right, so now what I should get is I should get index, score, and label without being inside of these brackets, if I'm thinking about this right. Okay, let's bring this up, and then let's throw it a hand. Okay, there it is. Okay, now I've just got index, score, and label. I've gotten rid of that array, and now I've just got this nice little packet of data. Okay, and so let's kill that. So now, I shouldn't have done that. I want you to look at it as I'm talking, so let me throw you a hand. Okay. And as always, I'm only using completely appropriate gestures here for the sake of this family-friendly video. Okay, so this is what we want now. Now what is it that I want? I've got classification, so I've got it down to this, and then 0, so I got rid of the brackets. What do I really want to know? I really want to know whether it's right or left. And so what is it? I will comment this out. What is it that I really want? I really want to print what? Hand.classification of 0. That gets rid of those outside brackets. And then what? What is it that I want? I want dot. I want dot. Say it, dot. Label. Okay. Dot label. Let's see. Could it really be this easy? Left, 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 because it's my right hand. Right, 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 because this is my left hand. In this crazy backwards world, it's working. Boom, it's working. Okay, so now we have parsed the data, right? Now we have parsed the data. But what we want is, besides returning my hands, we also want to return what? Hands type. Why do I call it hands type? Because it's going to be an array that will have multi-hands in it. So it might have 10 hands, or however many you specify, or however many it finds. And so hands dot what type, or hands type, not dot, just hands type. And then I got to create an empty array there. And now down here, what I have to do is I have to say, instead of printing this, I'm going to say that this is what? Hand type. The type of this hand is that whole mess that we just did, like that. Okay, like that. I kind of like that. So now I have a hand type, and then what should I do? What should I do? Well, the hands type, the array of hands, the hands plural type is going to be equal. Why did I not say hand types? Because it's not multi-types. There's one type of hand, it's right or left, but there are multi-hands, so hands type. You can call it kitty litter box if you want to, but this is the way I'm doing it. So hands type, what do I want to do to that? I want to append to that array what? Hand singular type. Hands singular type. So now I should have hands type should be formed as it goes through here. And I'm not going to print it because I'm pretty confident that that works. But then down here where we return my hands, what we want to return is what? My hands and hands type. Like that. Now when we call this function down here, it's going to, this dot marks method, which has been what we've been monkeying with, it's now, that marks method is now going to return two arrays. Well, if this method is throwing two arrays, when you call that method, you better what? You better catch two arrays. Now, I could call this second array here when I'm calling dot marks, I could call it anything, but I'm just going to call it hands type like that. Hands type like that. Does that make sense? I could call it something different, and usually I deliberately try to call it something different just to drive home the point that the variable you throw does not have to be caught in the same variable name. You can throw it as one name and you can catch it as a different name, but here it's just easier to understand if we use the same variable. All right. So now what we want to do is, as we're stepping through here, and let me just run this again to make sure that it's not crashing. It's not going to do anything new. Okay. So it knows that this is a right hand, even though it's calling it a left hand. It knows that this is a left hand, even though it's calling it a right hand. And so it knows it. It's just not doing anything with it. Well, let's see if we can do something with it. What I'm going to do here is, instead of just stepping hand through hand data, which is the first array, I'm going to step through hand data, and I'm going to step through hands type, right? And what I'm going to step hand and hand type, singular. So I'm going to step hand and hand type through hand data and hands type at the same time. And so I've kind of got two things I'm stepping through at the same time, and we've done this before, so this shouldn't surprise you. But if you're going to step two variables through two arrays, you've got to put this little tag here, zip the things here. And this is just a real handy little method. All right, now let's run it and just make sure it runs. Is it going to do anything different? No, but at least it shouldn't have broken it. Okay, there it is. All right, so now let's see, do we really know what a right hand is and a left hand? Okay, is it really keeping track of it? Well, what I want is I want my right hand to be red, and I want my left hand to be blue. So if it's a right hand, we're going to put red tags on it. If it's a left hand, we're going to put blue tags on it. Right is red, left is blue. Right is red, left is blue. All right. And so now the way we would do that is, what I would just say is, I'm just going to come down here, and where I put the color, rather than giving a specific color, I'm just going to say put the hand color. Okay, put the hand color. Now I've got to say what hand color is. Well, if hand type equal right, and you know these are going to be backwards, right? If hand type equal right, then what do I want? Hand color to be equal to what? We got to reverse it, right? Because it's reversed. We got to make the right hand blue. So this would be 255, 0, 0. And then if hand type equal left, which means it's really a right hand, then don't forget your friend. Who's your friend? Mr. Colon. Hand color is equal to, now we want to make this one red, which would be 0, 0, 255. And then I think I'm going to make this smaller. I'll make it 15. And just to make it bold, I'm going to make it like a 5, okay? And so the right hands, your real right hand should be red because I made its left hand red, okay? Your real right hand should be red and your real left hand should be blue. Okay, now we really want to keep track of this because we want to make sure that it's ordering things correctly and we don't have a data structure problem. So we really want to check this pretty carefully. This is going to call for a little sip of my goat juice here. That is really, really good coffee. That is really good coffee. Okay, here we go. Let's run this thing. Okay, my right hand, this is my true right hand. It is red. Okay, and I just want to do this every which way. Now I want to show you, see, like if I really confuse it, you can see it sort of, well, ooh, yeah, I did confuse it there. You see, like if I don't give it much data, then it can get confused what it is. But if I give it a good hand data, I would say this is working pretty darn well. Okay, and even it understands the two orientations of the hand, or hands down, hands up. Okay, look at that. Now let's give it a left hand, and this is a true left hand. This is blue. Okay, moving around. Okay, coming out, coming in, coming out, coming in, and it stays smart that it's a blue hand. But as it's swinging out, sometimes you see that there's a frame where it thinks it's red, but that's just because it's getting like a partial view of it. All right, now the real test is to go, left and right at the same time. So, all right, ooh, okay, yeah, I got to make sure that it sees the hands. Okay, so let's see. Right, my right hand is red. Okay. And you see as it's coming in and out, it's staying red. And guys, you've really got to test your data structures and things like this, because just doing it a couple of times, it would be very easy for you to just have something that works most of the time and find out that it doesn't work for special cases. And so I try to deliberately break my code. And what would be a way to do it? Well, what we've been doing is we've been coming in with the right hand first and then bringing in the left hand. Well, what if we didn't understand that data structure, and what if it just makes the first hand red, right? What if it's always the first one is red, right? You see, because it could be something confusing in there, and it works as long as you do what I'm doing, which is the first hand in is the right hand. So we ought to make the first hand in the left hand, and when we do that, it comes in blue, and then follow it, okay, and follow it, right? And then we come in, and then we take the first one out and bring it back and bring it back. We come in, we bring the second one in and the second one out. Okay, we come in with the second one, bring it in and out. And so I would say this sucker is pretty robust. I mean, I've kind of given it a lot of different scenarios, and then bring this one in, turn it, bring this one in, and turn it. And it just really seems like that we have a pretty slick little class. We have a pretty slick little class for determining the handedness and keeping track of whether we're looking at a right hand or a left hand. Okay, so what would that allow us to do? What practically would that allow us to do? Because I want to give you a homework where you can see, kind of play through with this. And so what I want you to do is I want you to create a new version of your Pong game, and that new version of your Pong game is a two-player version. Now, remember on the old version, you were moving your paddle across the top, and that made sense when you were just doing one hand, but it's harder to have two hands going like this because they come out of the left and right of your body. So I think it would make more sense to have the paddle on the right. Okay, so you see now, as I say, this is my right hand, but when I look at my computer screen, it's on the left of the computer screen, which is maybe why they called it left to begin with. But you want this hand that's on this side, this hand that is on this side, you want it to control the paddle that is on this side. And then you want this hand to control the paddle that is on this side, And that way I would have my hands like this, and I would have a two-player game, or I could sit here like this, and then over here, I could have another player. So you see, I could play with my right hand, and the other player over here could play with their left hand, and you could kind of really have two players, or you could just play yourself. And so what you want to do is you want to get your class working well, as I did in this video, and now you want to go back and modify your game, modify your Pong game. And then next week, I'll show you my solution to this. I will be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take my old Pong game and modify it, because I think it's easier just to take this class and then to kind of write it from scratch, because otherwise it gets really confusing, because like your paddle is not, your paddle was wide and shallow. Well, now your paddle is going to be tall. Your paddle is going to be tall and narrow. And trying to get all those things changed, I think it's easier to just start with this class and to kind of write the game again. And so that'll be how I'm doing it. But guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking this class as I am making it. I also hope that you guys are getting like your own set of ideas of things that you can do. Like imagine, again, you could see what's the distance between my two fingers. And you could do things. This is a thumbs up. This is a thumbs down. You could do things with different hands that would affect different things, where you take this output from Mediapipe and then you start doing things on your computer or on your system. Or you could even imagine like you could have the Arduino, and this is probably the direction that we will be going in the future. We'll probably get an Arduino and some hardware. I'll try to get a list put together after I've thought about it a little more. But imagine that we sort of did a thumbs up or a thumbs down to turn a light on or off. If you want the light on, you go like this. If you want to turn it off, you go like that. And then imagine you could just be sitting in the room and you could have the camera there. You want your lights, just give it a thumbs up. You want it, give it a thumbs down. You want an ice cold coffee, you could maybe give a special sign and it would send someone message that you want coffee. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making them. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, and then also leave a comment down below if you were successful. Right, I am legend, or I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. When you subscribe, make sure you ring that bell so that you will get notification of my future lessons. And please share this on your social media. Guys that you're having coffee with, tell them about these lessons. Get other people in this field, especially young people. Mentor a child or a grandchild. Mentor a neighbor's child, okay? But we need more people in the world that are thinking analytically, and more people that are doing engineering work, and fewer people that are just sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.